All of us at EUTV recognise systemic racism, racial inequality and the protests that are occurring around the world at this moment. However, we feel we cannot do these issues justice in a short segment. Over the coming weeks, we will be producing and releasing videos that aim to discuss systemic racism and racial inequality.
First up, Kate interviews Professor and Sage member Stephen Reicher.
Professor Stephen Reicher is Professor of Social Psychology at the University of St Andrews. He was also a member of the Subcommittee on Behavioural Science of the Scientific Advisory Group on Emergencies that advises the government. Professor Reicher joins me now. On the 24th of May, you tweeted, "In a few short minutes tonight, Boris Johnson has trashed all the advice we have given on how to build trust and secure adherence to the measures necessary to control COVID-19. This was on the day Boris Johnson backed his senior advisor, Dominic Cummings, after his trips to Durham and Barnard Castle. The tweet has since been retweeted more than 34,000 times and liked more than 80,000 times. Did you expect that sort of reaction to the tweet?
No, it was a reaction. It was a tweet. I didn't expect anything in particular to happen. Yeah, it was a bit surprising, really. It's a Sunday afternoon, you're at home watching the telly, something happens, you dash a tweet off. Yeah, surprising. Strange world we're in. It was partly just a sense of deep frustration and despair because, we've been working really hard for weeks on end now to see how we can help the government in building trust, building a sense of community, that we're all in this together, that we can help in the efforts to work together against the pandemic. And it just suddenly felt in that one act, so much was destroyed.
Do you think this will or is having an effect on public compliance with the lockdown measures?
Well, I think it's important to distinguish between two things. First of all is trust. Second is compliance. The evidence on trust is exceptionally clear. Somewhere between 70 and 80% of the public have lost trust, think that this shows that there's one rule for them and one rule for us. The basis of compliance with authority is the sense that government is on our side, is acting for us, is part of a common in-group. Once you turn that into a sense of us and them, you begin to think of government as them, as an out-group, then it undermines the basis of trust. So this isn't surprising at all. However, when it comes to adherence, people weren't just adhering, complying with the restrictions because they were told to by government. They were doing it because they believed in it themselves. So, in a sense, people may still adhere, but despite the government rather than because of the government. And that's not a good position to be in.
What do you think will be the long-term effect of the pandemic on social relationships and our society as a whole?
One of the problems about asking what the results are going to be is it encourages a sort of fatalism. You say, this will happen or that will happen, as if they'll happen of their own accord. And nothing happens of its own accord. The pandemic has raised a number of issues. It's shown the power of collectivity. So instead of viewing people as fragile and groups as bad, we're beginning to see that actually the public, especially when they act collectively, is our best asset. And so perhaps we need to rethink the relationship between the state and the individual such that the state doesn't try and act paternalistically and tell us what to do. It scaffolds and supports our self-organization. So I think there are some profound issues about the nature of individuality, the collective, and the relationship to the state. To take another set of issues, one of the things that a pandemic always does is to shine a spotlight on social divisions. It is quite clear, for instance, that your ability to obey lockdown is different if you are poor, if you're black, if you're vulnerable. And we see the costs of those divisions, not only to those groups, and of course, primarily they are to those groups, but it's to the society as a whole. So I hope that puts on the agenda more than before issues of inequality, of gender as well, of course. But the notion that suddenly become a wonderful society in which we support people collectively, in which we challenge racism and class inequality, of course, is naive because there are alternative social forces that don't want that to happen. So what's happened gives us a vision, and what happened raises an issue, but it still has to be fought for, campaigned for, it will still be political. And the notion that it will just happen demobilizes us. And that's the best way of ensuring it doesn't happen. So the paradox is, the more you say this is bound to happen, the less it is likely to happen. We need to fight and we need to campaign and we need not to forget the themes that have arisen during this pandemic when the pandemic is over.
On just a completely different subject, I know you do a lot of work on group behaviour in protests. You studied the London riots. With what's going on with the protests in the US right now, can you explain a bit more about that?
If you look at nearly every riot, whether in the US or in the UK, they tend to have a certain pattern. So you start off with a background of economic inequality and particular inequalities for particular marginal groups of black people, for black and minority ethnic people. What then happens is that those economic inequalities leads members of those groups often to be unemployed, to lack resources, to be on the streets, where they begin to be seen as dangerous. They come into negative interactions with the police in the UK, lots of issues of stop and search. So the police become the face of the other. They become the face of an oppressive system. Now, if on top of that, the police react in a way that is discriminatory, that is harsh, that is repressive, then you have the potential for disorder. The way in which disorder generally happens is where there is a particular incident which encapsulates all that. A black person being killed, which is what sparked the 2011 riots in London, or what we've just seen with the appalling events with George Floyd in the United States. So it's a combination of, if you like, long-standing oppression, a particular act of repression, and then insensitive and harsh police treatment when people begin to protest. The state and the police have got to get it wrong on multiple occasions for a riot to happen. People only riot as a last resort. A riot is not an easy thing to do. The people who riot will lose out from the riots, but in a sense, it's what you do when there's nothing else to do, when you haven't been heard in many ways. And like them or dislike them, riots are heard. The issue of inequality and the issue of police brutality is on the agenda, at least. How it will play out, I have no idea. But as I say, it's a cry of rage, desperation, in the words of Martin Luther King. It's the voice of the unheard. And if we don't hear that voice, and if we try and silence this voice by saying, oh, well, they're just mad or they're just thugs, then all that will happen is, to quote James Baldwin, is there will be a bigger fire next time.
Professor Stephen Riker, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, Neil talks with other students about how the pandemic has affected their year abroad.
The University of Edinburgh has cancelled all exchanges abroad for next semester, and those already abroad have been called back early. With limited guidance and abundance of anxiety, I reached out to a couple of Edinburgh students to see how they've been affected.
Hi, my name's Cerys. I'm a third-year student of French and German at the University of Edinburgh, and I should actually be on my year abroad right now in Berlin, but like many students, coronavirus has turned a lot of things upside down for me. So in October, I moved to Paris, where I'd be living for 6 months, working as an intern for the BBC. And by the end of my time in Paris, I was really pleased with my level of French, and I was able to speak it at a level that I never thought I'd be able to have with my French. I think that really showed to me how important a year abroad is. I was suddenly at ease at doing fourth year French because I realised the effort that I'd put in had really paid off. I had 2 weeks left of my internship, and I went into work one morning and we'd had an email to say that Macron would be doing an address to the nation that evening. All my colleagues were telling me that this was his announcement that France would be going into lockdown, that he would be closing the borders. In my head, my immediate thought was, in 4 weeks' time, I have to be in Berlin. I have a job to go and do in Berlin. If I don't leave now, I'll get stuck here and I won't be able to go do my next job. So I have to go home so I can then go to Berlin. Little did I know, I had to go home, pack all my things, and then leave at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day and get a flight home. But by the time I'd gotten home, my flights to Berlin got cancelled. Then the UK got put on lockdown, and then the first 4 months of my internship from April to July got completely cancelled. I have to go back in September and do a degree in French and German. I have a whole half of my degree that I have to go and do, and I haven't had that time abroad that is so essential and that I'd seen really pays off with my French. A year abroad for languages is obviously culturally enriching, but it's essential to your performance in fourth year. There are hundreds of other students at Edinburgh who do double languages who are in the same situation. I would hope that Edinburgh take this into consideration next year, because it's half of our degree that we're going to be underperforming in compared to other people who've been in that country since September. I am concerned. I am really worried. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to spend my summer in Berlin or in Germany. Maybe halfway through June, the borders will start to open and things will ease. But I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can go, and hopefully they won't turn me away when I get to the border. So we'll have to see how next year pans out.
At EUTV, I'm David Miedzybrodzki and I study theoretical physics. I was supposed to be doing my 4th year abroad in Caltech, which is in California. It was not actually a mandatory part of my degree, and it'd been in my 4th year because most physics students do a 5-year degree for the undergrad. How am I feeling about it being cancelled? Well, obviously I'm devastated. And it would have been such a fantastic opportunity. And I'm sure if everyone who's supposed to be doing their year abroad feels exactly the same, I don't think anybody could say that it wasn't exactly unexpected. My plans now are really unsure at the moment because we have been told that there is a slight possibility of getting to do year abroad second semester. And if we get to do year abroad second semester, I would definitely take it up. What would be ideal is if the uni were to be able to tell us, yes, we're going to get to go second semester, or no, because right now we're stuck in this limbo where we're not actually able to make any firm plans, make any commitments to accommodation, and even making commitments to our courses, because you're not able to choose a year-long course if you know you're going to be away for half of it. Obviously, it's hard for uni to make decisions based on something which they have no control over. So I don't blame them for us having no real idea. I think it's just a terrible situation for everybody who's involved.
Here's Scarlett's trip to Barnard Castle in County Durham.
Hello, Scarlett here, sports producer for EUTV, and today I'm at Barnard Castle. As you might have heard, Barnard Castle got put on the map by Dominic Cummings coming here during lockdown, which started quite a riot. So I'm here today to show you a little bit about Barnard Castle and what it has to offer.
Barnard Castle lies within the district of Teele, and the castle itself is known locally as Barney, built by Bernard Balliol between 1112 and 1132. The castle remained an important stronghold until 1569, and the Rising of the North saw it besieged by the supporters of Mary Queen of Scots. Now a glorified roundabout, this monument is known by locals as the Butter Market. Its construction was paid for by a local man named Thomas Breakell in 1747. It had once been a town hall, courtroom, lock-up and a fire station, and in the 1930s farmers' wives sold dairy produce here along the veranda, hence the name Butter Market. Barnard Castle is rated among the best places in the country to live, and visitors usually flock here to get a flavour of life in a town where time has stopped still. The Bowes Museum was purpose-built as a public arts gallery for John Bowes and his wife, which opened in 1892. The building is thought to have cost £100,000 to build, the equivalent to £9.3 million in 2019. Considered a jewel in the heart of Teesdale, the magnificent building houses a remarkable selection of European fine and decorative arts. One of the best-loved attractions at the museum is the musical automaton, The Silver Swan. This was made by the silversmith James Cox of London in the early part of the 1770s. It cost a great deal of money and was exhibited in the Paris show for £2,000. The American novelist Mark Twain also saw the Silver Swan at the Paris show and described it in his book The Innocents Abroad. Once a hidden gem in the heart of County Durham, people stuck in Britain may wish to come here for day trips, using the easing of lockdown restrictions to explore new places safely.
Here's Lizzy, Jenna, and I testing some craft hacks.
Hi, and welcome back to Quarantine Crafts. So over the past few weeks, Quarantine Crafts has tried to demonstrate to you guys at home how to work with different crafts and mediums. But today, for our final episode, me, Gina and Caroline are going to test drive some craft hacks and shortcuts, so you don't have to. From whether you're lacking in funds, equipment, or if you just simply haven't got the skill yet. And first up, here's Gina.
Hey, I'm Gina, and today I'll be testing to see if you can make fabric paint at home that doesn't crack on stretchy materials. For this, you will need acrylic paint, fabric softener, and a stretchy fabric of your choice. Then gradually mix your fabric softener with your acrylic paint. Paint your image onto your fabric. I made sure to place a piece of cardboard inside my t-shirt so that the paint didn't go through to the other side. Once you have finished your painting, leave it to dry overnight. Once it is completely dry, seal on your image with an iron, making sure to place a piece of scrap fabric on top. I stretched it to see if the paint would crack, and unfortunately it did. Next time, I would either add a lot more fabric softener or invest in some fabric paint.
Now I'm going to test a tutorial which says you can knit a whole rabbit just from one square.
So all you need for this is wool, knitting needles, embroidery needles and embroidery thread. First, knit yourself a square. The bigger the square, the bigger the rabbit. Now with the same wool and using a running stitch, loosely sew a triangle. This is for the head of the rabbit and thus should take up less than half your square. Next, pop a bit of cotton wool into the centre of your triangle and then pull on the loose threads of wool that you've left behind. After some pulling and fiddling, your triangle is pulled into the shape of a rabbit's head. Turn your rabbit round to the open second half of your square. Pop in a bigger lump of cotton wool and sew the sides of the square together. This will be the body of your rabbit. Now that I've done that, our square is looking pretty rabbit-shaped to me. Bless these little ears. Pleased with my rabbit shape, I got some embroidery thread and sewed on the face. Yes, he's a little wonky, but I think our rabbit experiment can be called a success.
Now we have Caroline showing us if we can dye fabric with just fruit and vegetables from around the house.
My DIY craft hack this week was using natural materials like rosemary and avocado pits to create clothing dye. Natural clothing dye hacks have been shown on various crafting pages like 5-Minute Crafts and Blossom. Supposedly, rosemary will give off a very vibrant yellow dye and avocados will give off a pink dye. Since the colors in the videos are way more bright than anything I could imagine a natural dye could produce, I really wanted to give this a go. All these craft hack tutorials show are the white shirt being boiled in water with the natural dye material. There wasn't a time specification, but I did it for about 30 minutes. I was surprised to see that both shirts did indeed get dyed to some extent, but as I suspected, the colors are much more muted than the ones shown in the tutorial. I washed both shirts and found the rosemary dye faded, but the avocado dye did keep its pink color. Next up, Kate, Scarlett, and Nate discuss books they've recently read and alternatives to buying books on Amazon.
A book I read quite near the beginning of lockdown, I think, was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. It's about a babysitter who is black, so the kid that she looks after, their family is having an emergency, so she has to go and take the kid out of the house. And she takes her to the grocery store, and then someone alerts security because she's a black woman with a white child. And then they end up calling the kid's dad. The immediate situation gets resolved, but then the kid's mum's really embarrassed about everything, and then it turns into this whole thing about her basically trying to make it up to her for the whole book, but quite clumsily. It's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It feels like a light read, but obviously deals with really serious issues.
So I've been reading Broken Stars. It's an anthology collection of Chinese science fiction stories. It's intriguing and you get a really great mix of stories. There's one that's quite funny called Salinger and the Koreans, which imagines another world where J.D. Salinger's novels become a huge success in Korea. And then there's one that's just really sad and depressing. It starts off with the Beijing Olympics and then goes backwards through a Cold War, the rise of Mao, and the occupation by Japan. It's a really good, well thought out story that's an intriguing look into Chinese history and sort of challenges how we view history in general.
My book was Ellen Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Freeman. I don't know if anyone has, well, if you guys have read this, but
yeah,
my nana gave it to me for Christmas, and I just had never got around to reading it, and then I just saw it on my bookshelf and thought, oh, see what this is about. And it's about this woman who is in her 30s, and she just works in this normal office, and she's always telling everyone I'm fine, but really there's all these kind of hidden things about her past which get revealed, and it's just really interesting. And Reese Witherspoon has optioned it for film. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but that's kind of cool. This was her first ever book. You think, wow, God, that is just the dream, isn't it? Like to write the book of the year as your debut.
Obviously, people like Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, have been in the news recently for generally being awful to their workers. I think a lot of people are sort of trying to stay away from big companies like Amazon. So I thought it'd be good to just talk about a couple of sites that I know that are slightly less morally dubious that you can get books from. So the first is, I think it's hive.co.uk. You can get some lovely books there. I got this book and the cover's so pretty. And I think that's all fine. And there's also the go-to for students aid books, which they're all secondhand, but they're so cheap. Like you can get some books for like £3 and it's fantastic.
Ordering books at the Blackwell's website. So like there's Blackwell's in Edinburgh, obviously. There's also like independent bookshops or smaller chains like Toppings, and so you can order books from there. But I understand that sometimes Amazon is cheaper, and it's a privilege to be able to shop in other places.
No, I 100% agree. It's only sort of if you are able to shop elsewhere and you can afford to, and it's not too much of a problem, then please consider it. But otherwise, it's entirely fair. Amazon is often the cheapest thing, which is why they have been so successful.
Here's food blogger Daisy with a delicious summery risotto recipe.
Hi everyone, in case you missed my recent recipe on EUTV, my name is Daisy and I run a food blog on Instagram called Dishes by Daisy. EUTV have very kindly invited me back today to share with you guys how to make a lemon and courgette spring risotto. So if you want to find out how to make it, then please keep watching. For this recipe, you're going to need 1 diced up courgette, then 2 finely diced onions. I've gone for red onions. You can also use shallots or white onions. Then about 220 grams of risotto rice, some Parmesan cheese, some fresh thyme, 2 minced garlic cloves, a lemon. Half of the lemon you're going to want sliced and the rest you will want to keep whole so we can squeeze out the juice later. You want some olive oil, some salt and pepper, and about 850 millilitres of vegetable stock. First up, over a medium heat, you're going to want to add some olive oil and these sliced up lemons to a large pan like this. Then we're going to add the courgettes and let them cook off. We'll leave them aside and then we'll get started on the rest of the risotto. After about 7 minutes, the courgettes should be cooked, so you just want to move them over to a plate and out of the way. And then you're going to add some more oil to the pan, add the red onions and cook them up for about 5 minutes. The onions are now softened, so what we're going to do next is add the minced garlic and the fresh thyme. We'll leave that to cook for a couple of minutes and then we'll add the risotto rice. So the risotto rice has been cooking for about 2 minutes. What we're going to do next is gradually add the stock until it's all absorbed, which should take about 25 minutes. So this just needs a couple more minutes and then we're going to add back in the courgette and squeeze in the juice of half a lemon, add in some grated parmesan and then we'll get ready to serve.
Here's Lizzy with the final installment of Pets of the Week.
Hi and welcome back to the final episode of Pets of the Week. Give all those gorgeous pets of yours a cuddle because it's time for our very last episode. Enjoy!
First up we have Zelda. Zelda is 13 years old and lives in North London, where she enjoys catching up on her studies, getting into scrapes, and pestering other people for food that isn't hers. #relatable. And although she shares her owners with 3 other pets, it's safe to say that Zelda doesn't want the extra affection anyway.
She's so cute and she just does.
And next up, we have Chestnut. This intrepid little thing is a Russian dwarf hamster who resides in South Ealing. And yes, she does enjoy adventure and flying in the face of danger, but Chestnut is also never one to leave the office until all the work is done. And finally, we have Leo. Formerly known as Leonardo McDermott Brown, Leo is a 6-year-old King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. whose talents include rolling, high fives, gardening, and loves to spend his time modelling the latest sustainable fashions. Here, he can be seen modelling a stylish bandana that used to be a dress, now available in all stores.
Next, we catch up on running with Kate and Nate.
Hi, welcome to On Track. I'm Kate, this is Nate. How's your running week been?
It's been too bloody hot. Nightmare temperatures. It's getting up to like 25 in the day. So even if I get up at 8:30 to go running, I'm still running in sort of 16 to 20 degrees with no wind. It's horrible.
So have you been managing to do what you planned, or have you had to adapt?
I managed to stick with it. I got up to 10 minutes running, 1 minute walking for 4 times. On Monday, it was unpleasant to say the least, but I'm very happy I managed it. I think I now run walking about 3.8 miles, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it cooling down a bit.
Yeah, I did my long run yesterday and started it at about 11, and I took about half a litre of water, but I finished that quite quickly, and then the rest of the time I was just like... And it wasn't as hot here as it would be there. Like, it's probably your early morning temperature at the hottest.
How far did you run?
Yesterday I did 20 miles. Are you not enjoying it so much right now?
I'm going to have to say I exercise right now is just sort of right, I've got to do this, let's do this, rather than, let's go for a nice run. I think when it gets cooler, I will be very happy, but at the moment it's just hay fever, the heat, everything. I get back from my run and I'm just like, right, I'm just going to sit on the sofa and watch crap TV for 3 hours now.
So what's keeping you going?
I think mainly the knowledge that if I sort of give myself too many days off, then I will just stop completely. I enjoy knowing that I'm getting fitter. Yeah, it's good to know that if anyone ever tries to attack you, you can run away from them really fast. So getting fitter is good, and I'm enjoying that feeling. But I would like it to be sort of what it was when quarantine began, and it was sort of sunny, but it was still reasonably chill.
Alas.
What
do you think about when you're running? Do you have psychological techniques to keep you going?
Now I'm running longer periods. I start off trying to sort of distract myself, sort of think of, I don't know, whatever, a film or something, and just mull it over in my head. When it gets to the last few minutes, I'll start actively trying to sort of hype myself up to get over the hill or finish it. And there's a song, you've probably never heard it, but it's a YouTube group called Shmo Yoho, and they do remixes. And it's this one American football player who did a weirdly inspirational interview after a game. Then they remixed it into a song, and it's really catchy and gets you hyped. I always start sort of running that through my head as the final few minutes go, and if I'm struggling. And then it's easier when you're coming on the way home because you're like, oh, I'm so close.
Yeah, and I guess when you're on the way back, if you stop, then you just won't be home. That doesn't help you.
No.
So is that near the end of your however many weeks?
According to the program, the next one would be 11 minutes running, 1 minute walking. And then the week after that, we start trying to build up to the full 30 minutes running. So we start off with the 5 minutes walking, 20 minutes running, 5 minutes walking at the end. And then you build up to just 30 minutes running. So yeah, theoretically in 2 weeks, I should be running 30 minutes. I'm very happy to take it slower than that because this is still more exercise than I've done in ages.
As you've been doing this, how has it compared to what you thought it would be like?
I think early on it was easier than I was expecting. One thing that has surprised me is my ability to force myself to keep running that extra minute or two. Because when you start off, you sort of start running and then you get very tired and you're like, oh crap, well now I have to stop. Whereas once you've done it for a few weeks, you're like, okay, I know I can run this much. I can surely run just 1 minute more and just get myself to the end of the section, and then I can have a little walk. You get more confident in your ability to run even when you're quite uncomfortable.
Do you think that you could have done this in normal uni times? Has having the lockdown and nothing else on, has that helped?
That has definitely helped. After a run, I tend to just want to not do anything for a while. It means I can sort of fit my day around the exercise as opposed to fitting my exercise around the day. So I try and go in the morning and then have the rest of the day free. And it also, it just means there's no sort of uni work to pay attention to, no parties going on that can leave you with a hangover the next day. It's going to be a struggle to keep it going. I'm going to give it a go. We'll see how it goes. I might have to cut down a bit. How's your running going?
Yeah, it's good. I did a run on Sunday with my parents and with someone not in our household because that's allowed. Because I'm in Scotland, so they loosened it towards the end of last week rather than Monday of this week. We kept distance, but that was nice. Yeah, and we're now allowed to drive to runs as long as it's not very far. That opens up slightly where I can run. So that's nice. Although I do like my local area, and there are wooded areas and parks not too far away that I can run to.
Okay.
Okay, happy running.
Happy running.
Nice to talk to you.
Here's Beth with a rugby-themed workout you can do at home.
Hey everyone, my name is Beth. I play rugby for Loughborough University and I'm going to take you through a rugby-inspired HIIT workout. I hope you're ready. First you're going to need to warm up, so I would suggest a little bit of jogging, some high knees, any stretches that are particular for you, and then as soon as you're ready we're going to start with the hard bit. Okay, first move, shuffles with burpees. And just remember the burpees are optional, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. For 1 rep, is to the ball with a burpee. 2 reps is to the ball and back. Remember, 5 reps, 5 exercises, 5 steps. Okay, let's go. Move number 2, a little bit nicer. It's a squat with a ball push. So I want you to imagine you're in a game and you want to rip the ball out of someone's hand. That's how aggressive I need you to be with it. It looks like this. One more. Move 3, bear crawl. Amazing for your abs and your shoulders, giving you really defined physique. So the key thing for this move is to squeeze your shoulder blades together, draw your belly button in, and keep your head up nice and straight, facing the way you're going. Let's have a look. Move 4. Side shuffles and touch the ground. So for this, it's key to be agile. Move your feet nice and quickly, take smooth steps, bracing your core, keeping your hips straight ahead in front of you. Let's have a look. 5 each side. Your 5th exercise is going to be kettlebell snatches. Now there's lots of options, which is quite a tricky move, but I'll show you option 1. You're going to need a kettlebell between about 2 and 10 kilos, maybe more if you're feeling extra fit. So you're going to start on the bottom in a tight squatted position, knees out, feet outside the hips. Place the kettlebell between your legs and bend your knees to be chest up. You're going to lift the kettlebell straight up into the air, keeping it as close to your body as possible. Straight up, punch the ceiling to the sky, and brace, and then bring it down nice and gently. Change hands, and back down. Take 5 of those on each side. If that's a little bit much, you can break it down into a clean. In this one, you go shoulder and then press. Shoulder, press, back down, reset, same on the other side, shoulder, press, back, reset. If you don't have a weight hanging around, then your option is jumping lunges, 5 on each side. And that's it. They're your 5 exercises. Repeat them up to 5 times if you can. And I promise you, you will be fitter within the month. Good luck, guys. Stay safe.
That's a wrap on QuarantinEd. Thank you so much for watching. Finally, we have a performance from Emilia Parker, a singer and actress who had a job on a cruise ship singing, but had to return home due to coronavirus.
Hello everybody, my name is Emilia Parker. I am a professional singer and actress, and I have just come home from performing as a lead vocalist on board a cruise ship travelling the world, which has been so much fun, but unfortunately it had to come to quite a sudden end due to this testing time and obviously this crazy pandemic. So being home, it's so lovely to have been asked to come and sing for you all. I don't know about you, but I'm doing all I can to keep my creative mindset stimulated. So that's lots of singing, lots of writing of poetry, just to make sure that my soul is happy. I studied in musical theatre at university and also did my masters at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in musical theatre, but my main passion musically is jazz, and my absolute idol is a beautiful lady called Ella Fitzgerald. So I decided to sing a song that she's covered so beautifully, and that song is Dream a Little Dream. I hope you enjoy.
Shining bright above you, night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore trees, dream a little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me while I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger till dawn, dear. Still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying these sweet dreams till some pains find you. Sweet dreams to leave our worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they may be, dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger till dawn, dear. Still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just saying these sweet dreams till some pains find you. Sweet dreams to put our worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they may be, dream a little dream of me. Dream a little dream of me. Dream a little dream of me. Thank you. Look after yourselves.